Hey everybody, David Swor here with DJ Cox for another episode of Frenemies. And DJ, we're rounding third here, buddy. Two more teams to go. We got the Rangers and the Royals to talk about this week, and then we are done. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the Rangers. Interesting team, maybe a team that we were led to believe might be a little different than what they actually are. So DJ, why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about the 2019 Texas Rangers.
So Chris Woodward is their manager. I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. I'm still trying to figure him out, is what I think about him as a manager. I need to start I need to start watching a little more Rangers baseball, because I was sort of led to believe that this team is a little better than they really are, and I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah.
And looking back at last year, this just was not a good team, not a good season for them. 78 and 84, third in the West. Not a winning record. Rougned Odor, however, is having quite the career. That guy is known mainly for punching Batista in the face, but man, can he punch the ball too, man? Holy smokes. He was 30. Yeah, you're right, and we're going to get to that. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're so right. So this is what I was going to ask you about, actually, because he went 30 homers and 93 ribbies while batting .205, David. How do you even do that?
DJ, this is a team full of Rob Deers. Just every position is Rob Deer. Second base, Rob Deer. First base, Rob Deer. I mean, DJ, how did this team win 78 games last year? I don't get it.
I do not have a clue. Danny Santana had 28 bombs and 81 ribbies and hit .283 last year. Who knows who Danny Santana is, be honest. Like, come on. This is like their best hitter last year. And, David, I counted today when I was looking at their pitching staff from last year. And do you remember which team broke the record last year? We were talking about them for using the most starting pitchers. Was that
was the last episode? What was the last episode?
Was it the
No, it wasn't the Twins. It was the one before that. I definitely remember that stat. It was the Mariners. It was the Mariners.
Was it the Mariners? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the Rangers were probably right there with them. They used 19 different starters last year.
Wow.
Goodness, man. How in the world do you do that? Like, 19 different guys started a game for them last season. You just can't win that way. You really can't. So I don't know what they were doing. But the season just was not any good. Mike Minor was good. He was 14-10 with a .359. I think he was probably their best pitcher last year. It's like last season, man. I don't really have much to say about that. What do you think?
I think the Rangers are in full-blown rebuild mode. I think they're in full-blown rebuild mode last year. So they kind of took some flyers on some pitchers, Mike Minor, Lance Lynn, and really they cashed in. They took some flyers on some position players like Hunter Pence, who had a pretty decent year for them last year, and that turned out. And I don't remember what team we were talking about that they were kind of ahead of the rebuild a little bit. I think that's kind of what happened to Texas last year. I think looking back at previous years, I think they were in full rebuild mode. They may have just got ahead of it just a little bit. And so this year in the offseason, they kind of made a few moves here and there, and let's go ahead and jump into that a little bit. Biggest ad, DJ. Let's talk about the biggest ad for the Rangers in the offseason.
So I got Jordan Lyles, Nick Goody, Corey Kluber, Greg Bird, Todd Frazier, Robinson Chirinos, Derek Dietrich, and Kyle Gibson.
So I'm going to go with Chirinos only because they were epically bad at the catcher position last year. They had Jeff Mathis, who hit 158. They had Isaiah Kiner Falefa, who is not a catcher, that they had catch some last year. I actually heard a really interesting interview with him this year on MLB. He wasn't a catcher. He just was trying to find his way into the lineup. And so they had a hole there, and he plugged into it. So this year he's back to infield only. He's not going to catch anymore at all. And so Chirinos is a good catcher, man. 3.8 wins above replacement last year, 17 homers, a good defensive catcher. So I think that was their biggest add. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to say Corey Kluber here, but I told you last night that I had a gut feeling that Corey Kluber is going to battle injuries the rest of his career, and he's not going to be the same Corey Kluber he was in Cleveland. So I'm not sold on him. I really am not. I think he's on the downward spiral, heading downward at a fast pace. So I want to go Corey Kluber because he's obviously the biggest name that they got. But, man, out of that, I don't know how you don't go with Chirinos. I mean, really, he's the catcher. He can probably fill that hole for him. And so I agree 100%. I'm going Chirinos.
So what's Kluber's injury now? Do we know? I mean, I didn't look that up today, but I know he's out.
You know what? I don't know what he did either, but he's done for the year as far as I think. I think he got placed on the 60-day DL, and if you're on the 60-day DL this year, you're out, man. So there's no shot of him coming back. I really am not sure what he did. If we could look that up, I kind of would be interested to see what he did because
I think it's an elbow.
If it's an elbow, he's in trouble because he's already a guy that was heading on a downward spiral, and if it's arm troubles, and we're in some deep trouble with him. So I don't know, but I'm gonna try to look that up here and see what he did. But
so my question for the Rangers would be: if you knew you were in rebuild mode, why would you send a very good relief prospect in Emmanuel Clase to Cleveland and pay Kluber $17 million?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me, DJ. Like, I don't, either you're rebuilding or you're not. And maybe they got tempted to try to push it a little bit. I mean, I can respect them for that. You want to win. But let's just be honest, DJ. Are they as good as the Astros or even close? Nope. Are they as good as the A's or even close? Nope. We talked about the Angels a little bit off the air. Their lineup is definitely not as good as the Angels. Now, I'm gonna make the case that their pitching's a little bit better, but like, why would you give up a good prospect for a guy making $17 million to hopefully lock down third place?
No, you're right, and I saw that Kluber has a small tear in his right shoulder, which is not surgery but a shutdown. So he's toast, and that ain't good. It's not.
This is the last year of his contract.
Yeah, he's in trouble. I don't know if the Rangers should even bother with him, to be honest with you. If this is his last year, I wouldn't touch him.
No, not unless you could get him to I think he had an option. They're going to, I'm sure, decline that option, pay him $1 million to go away. Maybe they can sign him for, some sort of incentive-based contract and bring him back. I love me some Corey Kluber, man. I mean, if normal a normal Kluber is in this pitching rotation, it's pretty tough, man. You got to throw some love to Lance Lynn, 16-11, 208 innings last year, 246 strikeouts. And he's – and what I didn't realize is how long he's been good. He's really only had one bad season, and I think that kind of tainted him a little bit. He went to Minnesota and then went to the Yankees in the trade later, and ERA up close to 5. But every other year, man, Lance Lynn's been tough. So let's talk a little bit about biggest loss.
So we got Nomar Maraza, Delano DeShields Jr., Hunter Pence, and Logan Forsythe.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to miss any of those guys. I mean, you could make a case they're going to miss Mazzara. He is young, and he does have some pop, but he's kind of had 3 years and really not done anything. Just kind of an average hitter. Strikes out a lot like everybody else in their lineup. So I guess I'll go with Mazzara. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. It's 100% Mazzara, and he's just I think he hit the longest home run in Rangers history, if I'm not mistaken, or at least at the ballpark. He just can mash. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not a huge fan of his, to be honest with you, but I think he's a good player. I think, if he's your fourth outfielder, you're in a really good spot. If he's starting for you, he's all right, I guess. I wouldn't really put him up there in the top right fielders in the game by any means, but he's not bad. And I think that he's the bad out of those guys. That's definitely the one that they're going to miss the most.
Yeah, I agree. So, DJ, let's talk about the team from this year to last year. Who replaced who here? I like doing this. It kind of gives you an idea of maybe where they're headed. So, Jeff Mathis was replaced with Robinson Chirinos. That would seem like a huge upgrade. Ronald Guzman, who is still on the team, has been replaced by Todd Frazier. That would seem like an upgrade. Let's see here. Is Drupal Cabrera replaced by most likely Kiner Falefa? That seems like a downgrade to me. Nomar Mazara replaced by Nick Solak. I'm going to call that a downgrade at this point. And then they did add 2 pitchers that should help outside of Kluber, who's obviously not going to help, which is Kyle Gibson and Jordan Lyles. So having said that, DJ, they finished third last year, 78 wins. Where do you think this team ends up? What's best case scenario?
So this is a tough one because I'm going to say best case, if something kind of miraculous happens, they might sneak into third place. However, they'd be that third place team that missed the playoffs. I do not see this happening. I see them finishing fourth. But I think they can – if they got third, I wouldn't be totally shocked. Let's just say that. So I think that's their ceiling. They're not terrible, and I think we're kind of throwing that a little bit at them. But I just think that they're a little bit below 500, which is a tough place to be. You're not in complete rebuild mode, but you're not very good either. So they're in a tough spot. They really are. And I think third place, they might be able to sneak into there. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually 100% agree. So last year they won 78 games. I do think they added a little bit, but there's a couple people here that they lost that we didn't talk about. In the bullpen, they lost Sean Kelly. They lost Chris Martin, who had a decent year for them last year. And they lost Emmanuel Clace, who looked really good down the stretch. And they're having to replace all those guys too. So I'm going to say they'll be a little better than last year. Probably puts them right under 500 or maybe at 500. And so best case scenario is going to be third place. And, that's really assuming that the Angels can't turn it on. Third place, and it's a stretch. Everything's got to go right, in my opinion, for them to get third place.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So what's worst case, DJ?
Well, the worst case is fourth because they're with the Mariners. And
yeah, they're going to be ahead of the Mariners.
Man, we did that one the other day, and we know that ain't going to happen. So Texas fans, at least you're going to get fourth. You're not going to be in the cellar. You're not that bad. We are kind of pounding on you a little bit, but you're not that bad. You're not Seattle bad. You're just bad. So you're going to get fourth, and that's the worst case scenario for them. That's the worst case scenario is fourth place. So I don't know. Is that what you got to agree to? I mean,
yeah. Even as bad as this team looks to me on paper, there are several games better than Seattle. Seattle is just definitely one of the worst teams in baseball, in my opinion. They're pitching with Minor and Lynn, and Kyle Gibson will carry them. They'll win, 1 or 2 out of 3 games right there. Lyles, I don't really know what to expect out of him. He's really only had one decent year, and that was last year. And they do have some guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, so that can keep them in some games. And so I don't think they're going to fall any worse than last. I probably don't really see them. Of course, they're not playing a 162-game season, but they were 6 games under 500 last year. I really don't see them falling any further than that. So I don't think they'll be worse than last year. I just don't think they'll be a lot better. I just don't think they're going to, move in the right direction very far. And like I said, I think this team's just in rebuild mode. Several years ago, they spent a bunch of money on Sen-Soo Choo. I don't know if you remember that, DJ, like a ton of money, like over $20 million a year on him. And they've got a few guys. Elvis Andrus, he's a pretty decent player. They spent a bunch of money on him. And I think they've just been kind of recovering, trying to get some traction again and get headed the right direction. And last year was like a splash in the pan. I don't know how that happened. I really don't. They had no pitching last year, like zero.
No.
They had Lynn and Minor, and how many other guys did you say?
17 besides those two.
17 other pitchers in those other spots, and they all were terrible. I had the list right here. Guys like Drew Smiley, 8.42 ERA. Shelby Miller, 8.59. Awful rotation. So Edinson Volk has 675. I mean, just down this list, it's just crazy. But DJ, what do you think the biggest strength of this Texas team is?
So you've already alluded to it, and I do like their rotation. Okay, I'm not completely – Corey Kluber's obviously a stud and has had some really good years. When I look back at Kluber's stats, I saw one year was really weird. He led the league in wins, and then like the next year he led the league in losses, and then he led the league in wins again. It's like weird. But he's had a really good career. He's 98 and 58 in his career, which is pretty studly, to be honest with you. I just think the injuries are going to catch up with him. That's a shame. 3.16 ERA last year, so he's a good pickup. Lance Lynn, man, he's 168 in his career. That is pretty good. He's got 100 wins, man. And like you said, he doesn't get like the love he deserves. He really doesn't. I don't know why.
Well, let's park there a minute, DJ. Why is that? Is it? I don't get it. So, like I said, I went back and looked at his stats. I knew from fantasy sports that Lynn had been a pretty decent pitcher, but I would never say him in a top 15 or 20 pitcher in the league. I would have never said that, but I think he kind of is.
I saw him pitch the other day, man, and it just kind of reminds you of how good he is. 6 solid innings out of him. Just does his job, man, and it's obviously paid off for him, and he's still doing well. And that's a pretty doggone good win percentage, and an ERA of 3.54, which is also pretty good too, man. So I don't know where the love lost on him is, but it needs to come back because this guy's legit and a very good number 2 guy to throw in there. And Mike Minor, 70 and 63 in his career, a little under 4 ERA. Showed a lot of signs of being an ace really last year. At times he was dominant last year. He pitched really well. And Kyle Gibson's about a 500 pitcher in his career with a 4.5 ERA. So the ERAs are starting to climb a little bit. And then Jordan Lyles is, not really impressed with him, but, he's your 5th starter. So maybe you can get something out of him. He's got some good stuff and good repertoire. So it's possible he could have a good year here and there. So I do like it. We do know Kluber is out, which is kind of a big shot to them, as far as their season goes. Not being able to throw him out there every 5 days. Don't know who they're really going to replace him with, but man, what a tough blow that was. And I do like the rotation, though.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you as well. I think the rotation is solid, and really the reason you go with the rotation is nothing else stands out about this team. The bullpen's got a bunch of younger guys in it. They got Rafael Montero now closing for them, former big Mets prospect, and maybe he's finally putting it all together. But after that, most people can't even name anybody in their bullpen, including me. And their lineup, that's the type of player that I hate. And so I'm like you. I have to go with their rotation. They do have 2 solid, I would call them number 2 starters probably for the most part. And Kyle Gibson's not a terrible number 4. Right. I'm betting the Angels would like to have a couple of these guys because if they did, they'd be real dangerous. I got to go with you, man. I got to go with the rotation. So what do you think is the biggest weakness for the Rangers?
I cannot stand their lineup, man. I don't know. I was reading through this today, and you're so right. I got some pretty funky things to read off about these guys. Joey Gallo. Let's talk about Joey Gallo for a second, David. You're shaking your head, so I think you know what kind of player he is. This is your kind of player that you don't like right here. Right. He had 22 homers and 49 ribbies. First of all, he was an all-star last year. How the heck did that happen? 22 bombs and 49 ribbies for the whole year?
He did an all-star? He did get injured last year, so got to hand him that. And he did hit 41 homers the year before.
Yeah, but that's
But-
the year before, right? Do we take that into account? I know we shouldn't, but you probably do, right?
Again, just look at the team from last year. It was probably pretty much just like, oh, Joey Gallo, he had a good year last year. Maybe he'll do it again. But like I said, in his defense, he did get injured. But if you're going to hit, what do you say, 22 homers or 19 homers? What'd you tell me?
He went 22 and 49.
Dude, hit a 3-run bomb every once in a while. What's going on with these solo shots? Maybe it's because nobody's on base.
David, listen to this stat. He struck out in his career now. He has struck out 613 times in 1,621 plate appearances. I'm no math major, but that's worse than a 1 every 3 at bats. So he is
awful,
going up there and hitting bombs or striking out. You're talking about a lineup full of Rob Deers. You're right.
Listen to this. I'm gonna read you something, DJ. This is seven players in their lineup. Robinson Chirinos last year, 129 Ks. Todd Frazier, 106 Ks. Roughnet Odor, 178 Ks. Sin-Soo Choo, 165 Ks. Danny Santana, 151 Ks. Joey Gallo, 114 Ks. And Elvis Andrus, 96 Ks. That's 7 players, DJ, in your lineup that struck out almost 100 times or more. What in the world? I don't get it. Like, are they trying to – is this a strategy? I just don't get it.
So Odor is one that we talked about earlier. I do not understand this batting line. This is something we need to break down a little bit more here because he had 30 bombs and 93 ribbies last year. That's a lot of RBI. That's legit for a second baseman. This is a lot. However, you said he struck out 178 times last year. That led the majors, David. That was not, just leading the team. That led the entire league. All of baseball. No, they don't.
Roughnet Odor, he walked 52 times. Elvis Andrus, 34 times last year. Willie Calhoun, 23 walks last year. Sin-Soo Choo, now he does walk a little bit, 78. Danny Santana, 25 walks. That is why a guy like Joey Gallo can hit, 20 homers and only have 40 RBIs. There's nobody to knock in. I just don't get it. I don't get what the strategy is here. I'm sorry. Roughnet Odor would be out. I don't care about his 30 homers. I got guys can hit homers. Something would have to give if I was the GM of this team. And then on top of it, what do? They bring in Todd Frazier. And I like Todd Frazier, man. He played for the Yankees for a little bit. He had some big hits. He had a good year last year. But it's another 100 strikeout guy. You've just got to find somebody to put the bat on the ball in this lineup to get on base for these guys that are hitting home runs. And until they do that, you're going to end up with 20 homers and 44 RBIs. That's what's going to happen.
So, David, honestly, though, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I would love to know if there was a second baseman last year who had more RBIs than Odor. 93 RBI is a lot for a second baseman. This is where I'm having a hard time with this. I'm like, if this guy is the number 1 RBI guy among second basemen, which it's very possible if he had 93. I don't know if LeMahieu had more as a second baseman. He probably did. So he would be my guess as to the guy who's number 1. And then maybe Odor's too, but if he's the second highest RBI guy from his position, that's got to have a little bit of value, right? I mean, I know his batting average is awful and he strikes out more than anybody in the world. But is there any value to that, David? 93 ribbies? I mean, there's got to be, right? I'm confused by this guy. This is a weird stat line.
There is. As bad as I hate to admit it, there is. If he's going to be in that lineup, he needs to be batting about 7th. And, they got to get guys on base in front of him. So they didn't have one guy last year, DJ, with 100 runs. Not one.
That's sad.
It's very sad because if they would get a few guys on in front of Roughnet Odor and in front of Joey Gallo, they could have 100 RBI seasons, but and obviously this is the future. Roughneck Odor, he's only 25. Joey Gallo, he's only 25. So I mean, these are the guys they got. You know what I mean? And so I don't know, but I hate watching teams like this. I couldn't watch it. I could not watch it. It's awful. It's not baseball, man.
This is the epitome of everything you preach against in our podcast. This team is, and it's so funny when I was going over this today. I was like, David, I don't know where the love we were talking about early in these
Me
podcasts.
either.
We messed that up because I completely was like, what were we thinking with the Rangers, man? This is bad. Nick Solak.
Same.
I mean, I like how the teams try different players out, and we'll see what we got in Solak, but I'm not impressed yet. Calhoun's your DH. He had 48 ribbies last year. I mean, if that's your designated hitter, you got problems. I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't. I think Chirinos is one of their better hitters, to be honest with you, and he's their catcher. So
he only hit 238 last year.
Yeah, his average wasn't very good either. And yuck, man. I don't like it. Shin Shu Chu. I mean, he if you draft him in your fantasy, at least you can be the choo-choo train, so you have a cool team name. But other than that, man, I don't know what to think about him either. He's an on-base guy, which is very rare on this team if we see because he walks a lot. But
he led the team in runs last year, 93 runs.
It makes sense. It really does. I mean, I like Chu. I think he's a good player, but I am not impressed with this lineup at all.
No, me either. So, DJ, let's talk about what they got coming up down the line. What's going on in the farm system?
So Sam Huff is a catcher, and we just talked about how we got some help with Chirinos signing him. So Sam Huff is a 2021 ETA guy. He may come up next year and be the backup or, starter. We'll see. Number 2 prospect for the Rangers, number 74 overall. He's 6'5", 240. He's a big dude. He bats right and throws right. 28 homers and 72 ribbies with a 278 batting average and 335 on base, which for the Rangers, as we just saw, those are really good numbers.
Very good. Bring him up. Bring him up.
Bring him up, man. He was a Futures Game MVP last year, which is pretty cool. That's a cool thing to have on your resume. 91 mile per hour average exit velo on his swing, which the average in baseball is 88, so 91 is pretty impressive. He throws out runners at a 48% rate, which is phenomenal. That's really good. I was impressed to read about that. So some guys are saying, David, some of these scouts are saying he's 6'5", so he's too tall to be a catcher. Like they're worried about his height with the catching, and it's kind of nice every once in a while to see tall guys getting some love, not thrown at them. And all us short guys all the time are getting the ones being doubted now. So these tall guys are being doubted a little bit. So I like that. I like them guys to get a little bit of the, doubts because of their size, sometime here and there, the tall guys. So baseball is such an interesting game like that, man. You can be 5 foot nothing or 7 foot, and there's definitely a role for you no matter what. So, but I guess they're a little bit worried about his height, which is kind of funny to me. But we've seen some massive catchers, so I think it'll definitely work. And seems to be pretty good from everything I'm reading about him and seeing. He's on the fast track to the pros, and the manager, Woodward, is definitely impressed with him too. And one of these spring trainings, whether it was the first one or spring training 2.0 or something, I don't know where we're at right now, but he did a real good job and was turning some heads. So I think we're going to see him on the fast track pretty fast here. So what do you got for a prospect?
Yeah, I'm going to go with I was going to go with Sam Huff as well, number 1, because he shares a name with a famous West Virginian, Sam Huff. But I'm going to go with Josh Jung, who is a third baseman. They also have a hole there at third base. It seems like
that's a big hole.
Big hole, yeah. And so he's kind of on the fast track as well. He was the co-player of the year in the Big 12. In 2019 and an All-American. He plays great defense. He actually plays shortstop for Texas Tech, but plays great defense. It looks like, just looking at his minor league stats, though, DJ, the power hasn't shown itself yet. So he only had 2 home runs last year, but he did hit 316, and he's at least a year away, possibly even 2. He was just drafted last year, but he's your top prospect, and he's in a place where they need him. So I'm sure he's going to be on the fast track.
Yes, sir. That's a good one.
So DJ, what do you think position battles?
Okay, so do me a favor if you're on there, pull up Derek Dietrich for me. Pull his stats up for me. I want to talk about him just for a second here. So we talked a little bit about third base. You just brought it up, and this is where I'm kind of trying to figure out what they're doing here. With Kiner at third right now. Kiner was 238 batting average, 1 homer, 21 RBI last year. So he did not light up the show by any means. He's getting his chance right now. But Derek Dietrich, man, was with the Reds last year, and for a little while there, he was pretty legit. He was hitting 3 homers in a game, maybe 4. Was it 4?
Yeah.
I
think that is.
So he did not have a very good batting average last year, and I understand that his batting average was terrible. However, I'm kind of confused as to what happened to him as far as this offseason. He must have been picked up and dropped, it seems like 15 times, and the Cubs just signed him about 2 weeks ago and dropped him right away, which was really weird to me. And then he just got signed by the Rangers right now, and so I don't know what is the deal with everybody throwing him around right now, but what are your thoughts on him? Like I said, I don't know. I don't think he's obviously a major stud by any means, but seems like a guy that can help you, and you just can't find a job right now.
So, being that I'm close to Cincinnati, I do know a little bit about Derek Dietrich. He started out the year last year on fire. But, man, just like turning off a hose, all of a sudden that was done. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Reds released him before the year was up last year. He had 19 homers. But you know how major leaguers are, man. They got scouts. And if they can find a hole, those pitchers can throw it in that spot or throw that pitch over and over and over and over and over until you can hit it. And so I don't know it for sure, but I'm betting they found the hole in his swing is exactly what I think is going on. But, going back to third base, he could play a role there. Todd Frazier's a great third baseman. They're playing him at first, so maybe Dietrich could slide over there at first. But, from everything I'm hearing, they really believe in Kiner. They really believe in him. He is definitely more of a contact guy. They were playing him out of position last year the whole time. He was very hot in spring training. So I read a little bit up on him, and he can play a lot of different positions. And so, I think right now it's kind of his job to win if he wants to win it or if he can win it. But, yeah, keep an eye on Dietrich. Nick Solak can play third.
Really?
If need be, yeah, he's a former Yankees prospect. He actually came up as a second baseman, so he can play a lot of different positions, and he's a good bat-to-ball type of guy, on-base guy. So, they got some guys can play third base, but, yeah, keep an eye on Dietrich if he could somehow figure it out. Of course, he fits right in with this lineup. 187, 19 homers, perfect.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm kind of confused. Like, this makes sense as to why they just signed him, because he's exactly what they do, man. So,
yep.
Put him in there and let him play.
So, DJ, I got a question for you. I don't know anything about the stadium, but why did they get rid of the ballpark at Arlington, man? I always liked that field. What was the deal with that? It wasn't that old.
I can't figure that out either. They kept the same.
Too hot?
Too what?
I think maybe it was too hot.
I have no clue what happened there. I really don't. I was actually very surprised to hear that. I must have missed that, and I just heard toward the end of last season that they were getting a new field again, and I was kind of confused as to what happened there. That field's only been there since '94, so it's not that old by any means, obviously. And it was pretty much just booted to the curb, and here there comes this new one. So. I do not know the answer to that, but I'm kind of surprised, and I'm with you. I was a little intrigued by the old one, and the new one looks nice too. So I just don't really understand. It's like an Atlanta type of thing, really. They keep moving ballparks and tearing ones and building them. And
so is the new one a dome or a retractable?
That's also a good question. I'm not sure the answer to that either. I don't know too much about it. I haven't seen have I seen the Rangers play at home yet, so I'm not sure if I've seen anything about that scenario. But I did see pictures of the inside without the roof. Obviously, I'm not sure if they have one or not, but it looks like a pretty cool layout. I liked it.
Yeah.
Thought it was a
It
nice
does.
little stadium. What's
It
that?
does have a roof.
Does have a roof, a retractable one, or
Yep. Yeah.
yeah?
So I'm gonna bet that's why the ballpark at Arlington, whatever they were calling it when it was closed, I'm gonna bet that's why it's gone. Because this stadium's in Arlington as well. Texas is hot, man, especially in August. Kind of like, we've both been to Phoenix. Can you imagine watching an outdoor game, an afternoon game in Phoenix? Not happening. Just
Mm.
not happening. But I always liked that ballpark in Arlington. I liked the way that outfield was. I just thought it was super cool. It kind of had that Spanish feel to it. I don't know what you call that architecture, but obviously I've never been. I wonder what they're using that field for anymore. They probably did something stupid and turned it into a soccer field or something. So, but like I said, I always liked that park, man. I just always thought it was cool, but I don't know. But obviously, did you ever get to go?
No, I never have been. Arlington Stadium was the one that was up there until the Globe Life Fields took over, and so there's 3 in our lifetime, and I've never been to any of them. I've never been to any of the 3. We actually, to be honest with you, man, this was going to be our trip this year. We were going to go down and hit Kansas City, and go down to Dallas, and go down to Houston, and come back up. Oh man, that was our 2020 trip. I kid you not. That was what we were gonna do. And then this stupid thing happened and everything got destroyed. And so I would have got this one in by now because our vacation time is normally the beginning of this month. So I probably would have been in a Rangers game sometime last week, which is the honest truth. So I missed out on that one. I'm pretty bummed.
So I looked it up. The ballpark at Arlington is now a multi-purpose field. You know what that's code for, DJ? Soccer.
Soccer is right. That's exactly what it's called for. Man,
Terrible.
pansies. They
So
might as well
DJ,
just they might as well just give it to like a chess club or something over soccer.
Exactly. So DJ, I'm hearing the Reds might be having fans this year. We need to make a pact that we should just go.
Really?
Yeah, they submitted a plan, I guess, to MLB or maybe the city. I don't know what, but I saw that on MLB Network tonight that they submitted a plan to have fans.
Good for them, man.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Seriously, and I don't really understand why this is the. I thought that when all this came down, there were more teams that were saying we're going to have fans in baseball, and for whatever reason that ain't happening. But that'd be really cool, man. Like I said, I've been there 700 times, but I don't care if there's going to be some baseball that I can go watch. I'm cool with that anywhere.
It would be therapeutic, man. I would definitely go. I would definitely sign up.
That's a good word for it. Therapeutic. It's what we all need right now. Speaking of therapeutic, David, have you been watching the Cubs destroy all of baseball? And the only thing that's bad about this is the Cardinals have the same amount of losses as we do, so I'm still worried about them.
So I heard Mike Schilt today on MLB, and they asked him the question, how many wins or how many games is enough? So Eduardo Perez came up with 45 as the number. You got to have 45. But, DJ, there's no way to solve that problem. I just don't. They've already screwed the pooch, in my opinion. They should have called up the 30 guys down at the alternate site, just played them, and went on with life. But now here we are. I mean, has it been like 2 weeks since they played?
Dude, I cannot tell you the last time that they played a game. They still haven't played a game since our last podcast.
No.
We were fired up about it.
I think Friday.
What's going on? Friday? We need to bring Andrew Green back on the show and see what he thinks about this whole scenario.
It's crazy, man. It is crazy.
Imagine being a Cardinals fan, David. Seriously.
Yeah. I guess from what Schilt said, they had some guys test positive. They quarantined everybody for 6 days, and then the second round of guys tested positive. And so that's why it's been so long. So they've been 20 days, I guess, now without playing. if my math is right. It's something like that. It's crazy.
I am not kidding you, I'm not kidding you. I would find a way to make them play at all their games. Like,
Just load them up, huh? Double headers all year.
I'm telling you, you have to do something. You got to make this work. I'm one of those guys, David, that like last year, I'm a big proponent of 162 on normal years. Like, play all your stinking games. And then, two teams like the Royals and White Sox got rained out last year. They was probably their last game of the year. And, everybody was heading to that Monday where everybody's off and everybody's flying to the playoff sites. Well, Royals and White Sox, play your game, man. Play your 162nd game. Like, you're not going to the playoffs anyway. So why are they not playing that game? I was mouse fired up about that. So if if that fires me up, think of what this Cardinal thing is doing. I cannot believe this is happening. What a joke.
DJ, are you a proponent of the shorter season? They've talked about 144 games. You like the 162?
I'm a big keep it at 162. Just for the whole sake of records and history, and there's no need to change any of that. Plus, I mean, I want more baseball anyway. I don't want less baseball, and these guys are paid multi-million dollars. They can get 162 games, and I'm a big proponent of keeping it there and not touching it for a lot of reasons. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it would definitely mess with the records for sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I just keep it at 162. I do understand the people that say, it kind of runs out of steam, but at the same time, it also allows teams like the Nationals to fight their way back into playoffs. The season lasts longer. You have longer to kind of work your way back into it. And so if you're a true baseball fan, and let's be honest, they're not going to shorten it up. It costs the owners too much money to do that. They make money every time they play, and they have fans in the stands, and so they're not going to do that. So I'm a proponent of keeping it 162.
There's no way they're doing that after this season, nightmare too. So there's no way they're going to get everything. They're going to go back to 162 and be thankful that they have that many games if they're smart anyway and not idiots. And all this messed everything up as far as that goes. I think it kept the 162 game seasons. That's a pretty good point.
Yeah. So DJ, favorite all-time Ranger?
This one is totally easy for me, man. I love Adrian Beltre. Love him, man. He's like the ultimate teammate. He has so much fun. What a great dude from everything that I've seen from him. Would love to be his teammate. One of the most underrated players in baseball history. There's no doubt about that, because what he did in his career has kind of been swept under the rug. He's one of the statistically best third basemen ever to play this game, David.
And good on offense and defense.
He's better.
How did we miss that, DJ? How did America miss Adrian Beltre? Because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't realize until he was retiring how awesome he was. 3,166 hits, 477 homers, 93.6 on the WAR scale, 5-time Gold Glover. I mean, he was awesome.
He's better than Brooks Robinson. I'm not kidding you either.
Yeah.
He really was. This guy's, and when you think of third baseman, Brooks Robinson comes to name. He comes fast when you think of those guys, and he really shouldn't come before Adrian Beltre if you're being honest about it. But man, I just love the way he played the game. He had a lot of fun. Him and Elvis Andrus, if you look up a video of them two playing on the field defense together, you'll probably crack up. Hated his head being touched, so everybody, of course, touched his head. Made him want to fight everybody. He came up with the Dodgers, man. 7 years with the Dodgers to begin his career, and it was just a stud. You could see the potential when he was a Dodger, and he really, really took off toward the middle of his career and then the end. But man, you read a lot of the stats I was going to read. He's definitely the man. Some of the other guys I think of when I think of Rangers are Michael Young. I loved Michael Young. He was just a great gamer. Good word for him. And then I think that you could go with Nolan Ryan for the 14th time here if you wanted. So where are you going to go with this?
I'm going Nolan Ryan. So DJ, I've got to read you some crazy stats. At 42 years old, Nolan Ryan was an all-star. He was 5th that year in the Cy Young voting, and he had 301 Ks that year at 42. 6 complete games, 2 shutouts, a 3.20 ERA at 42 years old. That, my friend, is a man. He is a man. I love me some Nolan Ryan. I'm going to throw him love every single time I can. And for my second favorite player, since you knew where I was going with Nolan, you're going to love this one.
Oh, no, I got it. Josh Hamilton.
He's a close third.
Okay.
I love Josh Hamilton too. I used to love to watch me some Juan Gonzalez, man, roids and all.
Really?
He used to come up there and take them big hacks. He had that big stash. Hit 40 or 50 homers 2 or 3 times. Yeah, man, I used to love me some Juan Gonzalez.
Juan gone. I'm surprised he doesn't have a son in the league right now. You just would see Juan Gonzalez Jr. up to the plate now. Like Raul Mondesi's got a boy now and in the league, and Big Juan Gon would have a kid in the league by now. What's up with that, Juan?
The steroids made
It does have side effects.
It does. But to answer your question about Josh Hamilton, man, we'll go back to the home run derby. Him and Justin Morneau. Pow, 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 pow at Yankee Stadium. Oh,
rock.
So awesome. I hate that he cannot stay on the wagon. I hate it. He's definitely got a sickness. It's not an addiction. It's a sickness. It's a disease, and he cannot get over it. It's ruined his life. Married to a pastor's daughter who hung in there with him as long as she could. He's hit her. He's done all kinds of stuff. I've always pulled for Josh Hamilton. Freak athlete, one of the greatest athletes probably. Could have been one of the greatest athletes ever. And he flushed it for drugs. I hate it, but that's just reality.
It's so true, man, because when he got his life on track and his wife was back behind him and supporting him all those times, and this man had a lot of demons in his life that first go around, and she stuck with him, and unfortunately she just had enough, and I don't know, man. I'm not a proponent of divorce by any means, but I don't know, man. When it comes to a certain point, I just don't really know what to think about that. It's definitely a tough situation, especially when you have people like that go through that kind of stuff. You don't really know what to tell them because you want to tell them to stay, but it's tough, man. That's a tough situation, and he definitely ruined a lot. He could have been way better baseball numbers wise too. I really believe that a lot of things got off track with his career too. So he could have been an absolute stud in this game, and he destroyed it all.
Yep. So DJ, Rangers trivia. Here you go. I got you one. The Rangers became a franchise in 1969, formerly the Washington Senators. Who was their first manager?
Their first manager with the Senators?
With the Rangers when they became a franchise.
Oh, Ted Williams, baby.
Ah!
Booyah!
Terrible.
Yes.
I didn't even know Ted Williams was a manager. That's just to show you what I knew. I was like so pumped I found that today. I was like, that's pretty cool.
You cannot get me, David.
Man, I thought I had you on that one. Wow. How'd you know that? Are you looking at the same trivia book I'm looking at?
I have no idea where you got that from, man. Teddy Ballgame, man. We talked about him in the Boston episode, man.
Hero. Big jerk, but hero.
I mean, he went on to be a manager too, and a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, I forgot.
And that was right during the time that I don't think he was there very long as a manager. To be honest with you, I don't think he lasted too long, but I do know that he was their first one. So. Thanks for putting that one on a tee for me.
The Rangers need to clone him and have him bat second.
Well, hey, didn't he want to freeze his body or something like that, or something weird? He did, right?
He freezed his head. He froze his head.
Yeah, so let's bring his head in there and let's let him manage and pick his brain.
He'll still probably hit about 250.
Yes, he probably will with just his head. Oh man. Okay, so oh man, well, here we go. This Ranger played from 2000 to 2012 and is the all-time leader in sacrifices in a Ranger uniform.
2000 to 2012.
You might get this because no, I'm not going to say this, but you should get it.
Michael Young.
You got it. You got it, man.
Yes.
I goofed up and put that guy. Shouldn't have talked about him right before trivia. That was stupid of me.
I think I would have got that one. Because I was always a big Michael Young fan as well. Stud.
I'm going sacrifices on you because you go as a stupid closer trivia for me. So I figured I'd throw a little sacrifice. All-time
Who's the Rangers' all-time wins leader?
Huh?
Who's the Rangers' all-time wins leader?
Well, I want to say the guy that pops into my head is the only reason I don't think it's him is because he's played with the Cubs and the Rangers is Fergie. But Fergie split so much time between the two teams that I think he's about evened out and couldn't be a leader for one of the teams. Man, the Rangers all time, and Nolan Ryan played for 400 teams, so he couldn't be the leader in anybody. Oh man, that's a really good one. How about Jeff Zimmerman?
Jeff Zimmerman? What? I actually forgot about that guy. What about Charlie Huff? Oh,
Really?
Charlie Huff. Remember when he played for the Marlins there for a little bit and he looked like he was 80?
Yes, he looked so bad in a Marlins uniform. He looked terrible.
He did, but he pitched 200 innings in 1993. I have to try to do the math, and a 4.27 ERA, which makes him like a number 3 starter right now. So let's see, he was born in 48, so in 1994, that would make him 46, DJ.
Oh,
40. I'm sorry. Yeah, 46. 46 years old, and he pitched over 200 innings. But
wow, he's the all-time leader in Rangers wins.
Yep, 216 and 216. That's his record.
You're
3.75 ERA.
There's no way I would have got that. Charlie Huff. Wow.
Charlie Huff. Charlie Huff right now is 72. He's celebrating his 72nd birthday for like the 20th time, I think.
Happy birthday, Charlie.
He's in the same facility with Donnie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. There's no
DJ,
way.
let's park it right here and let's talk about the one Rangers fan that I've ever known in my life, Mr. Brad Guffey.
Guffey. All right. So first of all, thanks a lot for joining the podcast. I know you ignored us twice on this, so maybe maybe if I was Jason Morgan, you would have jumped on here or something. But
maybe if we had a can of Skull waiting on you, a complimentary Skull can, you might have made it.
No, Brad Guffey though, I love that guy. I actually roomed with him one semester. Man, I had so many different roommates in college, and we were roommates one time for a semester, and I just love that guy. And man, I don't know if you remember this, but I believe that Guffey was the only guy on the team that was faster than I was, man. And that guy could just run. Holy cow, could he run? He had blazing speed, man. And we were at Avondale one day, and you probably remember this. Casey Caldwell was hitting us some pop flies. We were doing outfield drills, and we were working on, calling off each other, and he put one right in the gap, man. And I was running for it full speed, and Guffey was running for it full speed. And I should have obviously called it since I was going for it, but it was one of those that was so far in between that I just didn't really react, and I just dove after it, and Guffey dove after it, and we collided, man. And my MCL just kind of shred there, and I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure I tore my ACL, so I wasn't hurt, but I was upset because I thought my season was over, and part of my next season because the ACL is so hard to come back from. And thank God it was just a small little tear there. But, man, that was a nasty collision with two guys going that fast, colliding. And I'm sorry about that, Guff. He didn't get hurt at all, which is good. Lucky for him. And I think I only end up missing about 5 or 6 games on that, so I got lucky. Just had to wear a brace for a little while there. But man, could he run? He could track a ball down too in the outfield. He's probably the only guy I've ever known from Louisiana. So
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I think he was with us. Did he come in the same year you came in, I believe?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Me and Guffey became fast friends. Like you said, man, Guffey could fly. I don't remember who he got put into pinch run one game, and I believe he stole second and then scored on a single, and it was a big win. I don't remember who that was, but anyway, dude could fly. Guffey, I wish you'd have stuck around, buddy. You'd have been our left fielder, I'm sure, from there on. So we wish you'd have stuck around, and we wish you'd have joined us on the podcast, you wuss. So maybe next year.
How long did Guffey didn't see the whole way out? I'm trying to remember.
1 year.
Guffey was only there 1 year?
Yep, 1 year.
Are you serious?
Yep. It seemed like, I don't know why. I guess because it was so tight, but yeah, I'm pretty positive he was only there 1 year.
Man, I would have thought at least 2.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I feel like I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, Guffey, man, I love that guy. He was great teammate. Not a fun, like I said, the only Rangers fan that I know too. So it was kind of fun to go to him and razz him about the Rangers. But man, in those times though, they had some bombers back in those days when we were in college. Man, they had some guys that could mash the ball. So they had some really good teams back then. So it was kind of hard to razz them when they were that good. But it is easy now.
Well, DJ, I guess it's time to wrap it up. Plan on the Royals next time. Hopefully we hear back from Jeffrey B. or Dusty Childress or somebody that's a Royals fan. But I guess we'll wrap it up, and not going to be a good year for the Rangers, I don't believe. Maybe they'll surprise us. So the only team that right now is behind them is the Angels. So
that won't last for long. You watch. Those Angels are coming back, man. They're coming back.
All right. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in for another episode. We got our 100th view. Unfortunately, it was me that was number 100, so DJ is for life. But you guys keep tuning in. I'm looking forward to getting past these teams and doing some weekly updates or some trivia or something coming up. So y'all keep tuning in.
See you, everybody.
Yep.